I love the book of Job because it's so honest and so real, because it gives me God's perspective on the difficulty of living life in this world. I love Job because every time I read it, it kind of slaps me in the face and it wakes me up again to the reality that me and my desires and my comfort are not at the center of the universe. Job reminds me that God actually doesn't owe me anything. So in the story of Job, you have a number of people, including Job himself, that had a theology that says, if you live a godly life, then you will also live a life that is happy and prosperous and comfortable and full of all kinds of good things. But if you live a life filled with sin, then you'll live a life here and now that's painful and full of difficulty and all kinds of trials. A lot of people think like that. Maybe that's what you think. And honestly, when I look at the way that I sometimes respond to the hard things that happen in my life, it proves that every once in a while, I actually believe this too, practically, at least a little bit. But reading Job reminds us that God actually isn't required to give us any kind of explanation for the hard things that happen in this world. Through Job, God calls us to just let Him be God, to trust Him to run His world in His time and in His way. Reading Job reminds us that God is up to things behind the scenes, things that we can't see, things that we would never even understand or imagine. Reading Job reminds us that God has much deeper, much more lasting purposes for us than just to make us happy and successful and feeling good in our few years here on earth. So in today's reading in Job, chapters 1 and 2, we get to listen in on a little conversation between God and Satan. And in that, when Satan shows up into the presence of God, God says, "Hey, where have you been? What have you been up to?" And the devil says, "Oh, I've been roaming around the world, going here and there." Well, and we know what he does when he does that. He's looking to cause trouble. He's looking for people that he can turn away from God. And God says, "Hey, in your travels, did you happen to see my servant Job? There is nobody that loves me like he does." And the devil says, "Oh yeah, Job is godly. He's godly because he's living it up. But the only reason he serves you, the only reason he praises you, is because you've made his life so easy and good. He's wealthy. He's always got good health. He's got such a good reputation in the community." But the devil said, if you mess with his life, if you bring him some pain, I promise you, he will curse you to your face. And so God gives him permission to afflict Job in a number of ways, and it was big. Job lost all of his flocks, all of his herds. He lost all of his wealth. He lost his children all at one time in one day. And he got so sick then that he was in such pain that he just wanted to die. But Job, even though everything was so hard, when I look at him, I think I want to be like Job because of the way he responds to his difficulties. Yeah, eventually as the book goes on, he does a lot of questioning God, and he even does some complaining. But we see from the beginning Job's real heart towards God. It says that when all of these things happened, when Job lost everything, the first thing he did was to worship. What? The guy loses everything, including his kids, and he worships? Because he recognized that everything he had in his life, it didn't belong to him. It all came from God in the first place. And so Job just says, the Lord gives, the Lord takes away. But in everything, blessed be the name of the Lord. Well, things got so bad that even Job's wife said, "Why don't you just curse God and die?" And that's exactly what the devil wanted him to do. And Job just says, should we just tell God that we'll only allow him to bless us, that we will only accept good things from him? Isn't he God in the midst of adversity as well? And I love what it says here about Job. It says, in all of this, in the midst of all these things that happened to him, he did not blame God and he did not sin with his tongue. I want to have a faith like that, to look to God in worship when things happen that I don't understand, to trust his heart, to rest in his wisdom, to just let God be God.